Hello, my name's David Pullella and welcome to my presentation for assignment 1A from course EDFD653 Social and Cultural Context of Education. The first part of my presentation looks at social class and inequality, and here is a mind map of my broader understanding of the topic, outlining my two key questions, which I'll mention in a moment. In this chapter, it looked at social class, social stratification and inequality. On a policy level, outlined education as a social institution which prepares students for participation in other social institutions, such as family and economy. And we looked at life chances and social mobility, the ability of students to progress and achieve economically and move up and advance in social structures and hierarchy. Around the Australian history or in education, it also looks at some of the key milestones and turning points, most namely of which for me was the 1973 Whitlam government produced the Schools in Australia report, demonstrating how education in Australia was reinforcing inequality, and then as a result of those findings committed resources to amending this. So as mentioned, and as you can see in this mind map, the key issues that really stood out to me in this chapter is the two issues presented in the form of a question: does education in Australia improve the life choices of students, ? And is schooling part of the problem, or is it the solution in regards to social class and inequality? The reason why I chose these two questions is that the current reality, Australian education in the 21st century, really has questions about whether is education advancing or and improving the life choices of students. Obviously, it's the goal. And also, is it part of the problem of inequality as the result of social class, or is it the actual solution? These are the stats. The issues, the current reality is that 18% of students under the age of 15 in Australia are still living in poverty. That's a really astonishing statistic. That's almost a fifth. There's a large achievement tail in Australia, or achievement gap in Australian schools compared to other countries. This is particularly the case when it comes to students from Australian and Torres Strait Islander backgrounds and low socioeconomic backgrounds. The reason for this gap, and in text, in Connell and et al., it speaks about some reasons for this. One of the reasons is, I guess, practically geography. Also, the reality that in the system, there's actually a very narrow socioeconomic mix in the majority of Australian schools. 2/3 of Australian schools have a very narrow socioeconomic mix. And also the fact that highly developed educational markets cater to the different socioeconomic climates quite specifically. For example, affluent schools really market to students from upper middle backgrounds, versus more working class schools really cater to the needs and market specifically and in a very narrow-minded way towards students from more working class backgrounds. In my personal experience working for a provider of personal development and faith-based programs throughout Australia called Youth Mission Team, I've had an experience of working in a range of different, predominantly private schools in both Victoria and New South Wales, predominantly in the Catholic system. And I've firsthand recognised the narrowness and the lack of, diversity, and that's really been prevalent to me when I've worked in schools from ranging different socioeconomic areas. affluent schools attract affluent students, and their standards and the opportunities that open up to them, the focus and the goals and the programs of those colleges really are honed in on those students that they market to in the very developed educational markets. So these are the reasons. This is the current reality. But however, it leaves me asking the question, and the reason why I chose the issues is, what can we do and what can I do as a teacher, most importantly? So first and foremost, what I need to do and what's essential for teachers to do is that they must recognise that inequality is not a natural progression or inevitable in education, but it's the product of social structure. So teachers really need to challenge inequality and social class, not as something that's needed or natural or inevitable, but something that's developed, and that's something that we can impact on. We can make a difference to this. As a result, teachers need to address cultures of power in the classroom. This is a recommendation from our key text for this course. We need to address this in the classroom. Teachers must implement social imagination and productive pedagogies. These pedagogies are deeply contextualised practices which don't try and refrain from trying to separate the essential social aspect of teaching and education, which should be woven into all disciplines and all aspects of school culture. It's a central part of who we are as people, and it needs to be addressed. And social imagination and productive pedagogies are necessary. And then the final thing that teachers can do in my addressing those two key issues that I raised are that teachers should value and cater to the diverse cultural capital and individuality of every student. So the cultural capital and individuality of every student, those, I guess, being the knowledge, all the attributes that they've taken from their background that make up who they are. This needs to be deeply valued. And allowing this, once we value this, allowing this to direct the educational codes, so I guess the standards and codes, rather than just allowing preconceived and intense perceptions of social class to drive our educational codes. I want to share a brief experience from a recent placement that I've done at a college called Edmund Rice West Wollongong. It's a school set up in regional town Wollongong, obviously only very close to Sydney, but still considered a regional hub. This school is probably the most, it's definitely probably the most affluent all boys Catholic college, independence college, EREA school in the region of Wollongong. And one thing that I was really moved and really admire at the college is their commitment to inclusive education and the real embracing of diversity as an essential part of their Catholic identity, but also their whole approach to education. It's centered on the Edmund Rice principles, but I found that this experience of accepting students from a range of different backgrounds. They didn't have to necessarily have to be from a Catholic background. They didn't have to be from an affluent background. The provision of a range of vocational and non-ATAR programs, combined with a robust service focus for students to engage in the community, to me presented an example of a prestigious school that prioritised and recognised the cultural capital and the diversity of every student and the value that brought to their college. Now to part B, cultural difference and identity. Again, another a roadmap, mind map outlining some of the key things that I've picked up from this, from these two chapters, from the main text. The three issues that I've identified to be the most significant to me in this reading that I've undertaken is A, culture, B, the impact of Australian migration history, and C, the implications for our education. So looking at culture, culture, as outlined in the text, has a massive impact on education. It also can be said that culture has power. Now, if we look at constructivist theories of education, such as Piaget and his approaches, every student has a range of experiences, prior knowledge, both in a social and educational context, which impact on their future learning. That has a direct impact on their future learning. So therefore, as teachers, we need to recognise the power and the impact that students' cultural capital has on their development. Now, in our current system, some culture and knowledge is considered higher value than others. As to why this is, we obviously need to be aware of why do we value these more than others, but ensure that we're not discriminating against other cultural knowledge and values, which is also very important. The other thing I thought important to mention as part of culture is this tension between assimilation into the school culture and the school values and the different things, but also how we balance this with multiculturalism. This coming together, however, with a strong and deep appreciation for the culture and the background which every student contributes to the classroom. Next is the Australian migration history and the impact that this has had. So obviously there's been the White Australian policy, which existed in Australia between the 1880s and 1960s, which is an astonishingly long period for something so segregatory to exist within Australia. Also, the impact that this and similar sort of attitudes have had on certain races that have tried to immigrate to Australia, such as Austrians, Germans and Turks being considered enemies and being denied access and immigration. We've also noticed a change in demographic of those immigrating to Australia. Where there was fewer, now there's much more, and now up to 40% of our annual intake of immigrants are actually from Asian countries. And this is impacted on our education. A key example is the cross-curricular priorities. The cross-curricular priority within our Australian curriculum of Asia and Australian engagement with Asia. Now, how does this implicate education? Well, it implicates our policies and our programs. So schools need to really have strong policies and programs and continually be developing our programs and informing them based on best practice around inclusivity and multiculturalism. So multicultural education policy might be an example of that. So the impact of refugees on education is another thing that teachers should really be considering in their implication. And finally, discrimination. Discrimination can be on the basis of race, religion, bullying, gender, sexuality, a range of different things. However, discrimination does damage in the lives of individuals, but also in systems and in education. So really being aware of instances of discrimination in schools, in classrooms, but also the impact of external discrimination happening in society and in the community, and how that correlates to being taken back into the classroom and how this impacts attitudes. Thank you very much for your time and listening, and I look forward to receiving your feedback.